Welcome everyone to the Healing Place podcast. I am your host, Teri Wellbrock. Excited to have you here with us, listening in, and also excited to have another wonderful guest. I will be doing some introductions in just a moment, but I just wanted to welcome you here first to this space filled with motivation and inspiration and healing stories. All right, welcome everybody to the Healing Place podcast. Just an FYI, I have Max on my lap today, so he's going to be hanging out with us. And I am super excited to have Belinda Farrell with me to talk about Huna Healing, which is her website, and love the title of her book, Find Your Friggin Joy. So welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Mahalo for having me, because you're across the pond, as they call it, right? Yeah. I'm in California, and you're where?
I am actually in Cincinnati.
Okay, the middle of the pond.
The middle of the pond, that's right. Way far away from California. My son just moved to Denver in February, so I need to make my way out there. I've never been out west. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, you're in for a treat.
That's what I hear. I hear Colorado and the mountains. He went to the mountains this past weekend, took his dog and went with some friends and sent videos, and I was just like, oh yeah, I need to get out and see my boy out there. So yeah.
Well, California just embodies everything: the beach, the mountains, the redwoods, it's just got everything, the desert.
Yes.
So whatever mood you're in, you get to go find it.
That's wonderful. Well, it's absolutely on my list. So I'm so excited to have you here. So tell me about, Huna Healing. What is that?
I know. What is that? I was introduced to Hoonah probably 25 years ago when I went to Hawaii to study advanced hypnotherapy. And at the time, I didn't realize, but I was deathly afraid of water. And here I am on an island surrounded by water. And I had to meet that fear. And it was incredible because I was doing some deep breathing, which is emphasized in my book. It's called the Ha breath. And you breathe deeply through the nose, like you're filling a glass of water at the top of your head. And you're going to give this as a gift to your higher self. And the higher self is what heals you. So I was in the midst of doing this deep breathing. And then all of a sudden, I experienced these dolphins and whales coming into my mind or my psyche, or they were just like the Red Sea parting and all these dolphins and whales were coming in. And I was just overwhelmed. I had never had that on my radar because I never thought of the ocean or any kind of sea creatures in my life. And here they were all, storming in. And then that night I started having dreams about them. And the dolphins were teaching me how to swim, and I could swim, and I was enjoying it. And I got up the next morning, and I had this urge to want to go out and meet them, but I had to get over my fear of the water. So it was huge. I had a friend who escorted me out there, and I still have scar marks on his arm from where I dug my nails into his arm. So scared to get out there. But the dolphins came to me. They downloaded information into me, and they took away my fear of the water. And then I started taking people out to meet them. And I started studying Hoonah and this amazing healing process of how we can heal ourselves. And that's how it all began.
Wow.
I did a 3-year study of the ancient Hawaiian healing arts that the kahunas were doing on the island. They didn't have anything written down. So a man named Max Freedom Long, who came in about the year 1917, he started studying what they were doing, what he was seeing as miraculous healings, bones just going back together and cancers being taken care of. And he just started writing down. He stayed there like 40 years. And so I studied his books and how to reach your higher self so the higher self can come down and heal you.
Wow, beautiful. And you had a story, you had something happen to you,
right?
As far as a physical, was it your spine?
It was my spine. I was doing stunt car driving. I had worked with Tony Robbins for about 5 years. He was like my first teacher when I turned 40 and got a divorce. I was scared of everything. I just hadn't used my voice, to express myself. It was always what other people wanted. It was back in the 50s. We were just kind of in that mindset. And so I was breaking out of all this. And what better way to do it than walk on fire, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I started doing these fire walks, and they really do empower you, and they get you to look at life as a metaphor, not just walking on fire, but if I can do something that nobody else has done, or I didn't think I could ever do that, then what else am I holding back with? What else can I do? Yeah. And so I'd always wanted to drive a race car. I don't know where that came from, but I used to love wheels and, bikes and things when I was a kid. And so I thought, well, I have to go see if I, can do that. So I enrolled in a Grand Prix road racing course that was in Sonoma, California. I was the only girl, scared to death, didn't even know how to drive a stick shift when I got there.
Wow.
and found out that I had some talent. And then sure enough, they hired me at the end of the 4-day course to drive for Buick and Cadillac in New York. And my stunt driving career began. And so I started to learn more tricks and slides and more techniques, joined a racing team. And for about 8 years, I just had the time of my life, driving.
Amazing.
And then, but eventually, I was an adrenaline junkie. So it was, I would do something and not rest, and then keep doing it and pushing myself. And then finally I collapsed with herniated discs and nerve damage. I couldn't walk. I couldn't sit. I was bedridden. And I had no insurance because at that time I wasn't driving. I wasn't doing commercials or films. So I had no insurance. So I had to say to myself, I had been studying all of the Hoonah for about 3 years on how to heal yourself. And I thought, okay, now I've got to see if this really works. And sure enough, I sequestered myself in bed and I did nothing but the deep breathing. I did the Ho'oponopono, which is to forgive yourself for all the things that have happened or you blamed yourself for in the past. And I cleared the passageway. There's a passageway from the unconscious mind all the way up to your higher self. And when that passageway is cleared, it's like you become your own roto-rooter. It's true. You're clearing and you're erasing all your judgments and misconceptions that you've had on what happened to you in the past. And pardon?
I don't know if this is similar or not, but I practiced for a while, and I still do every now and then, a meditation that Dr. Wayne Dyer had put out on.
Oh, I love him, yes.
Yes, and he put out the Ah meditation, and it was very much about aligning chakras, and it was that feeling, and the more I got into it, the more I could feel like the alignment. I could feel this clearing of energy happen, and it's ascending out through the third eye, and I would walk around the rest of the day with a tingling in my feet.
Yeah, that's the feeling.
Yeah, like this sensation of energy leaving me that was just so beautiful.
Well, it's undeniable because it's an inside job. When you feel connected, you feel connected.
Right. Very beautiful.
So you have to go inside and do the work or the play or whatever it's called, but your ego keeps you distracted so that you don't go inside. And so the only thing to get you to go inside is an illness or something to kick you into gear, and you can't do anything else but, go inside and concentrate and clean yourself up.
Right.
So that's what happened to me, and I just did a lot of, in fact, in my book on page 109, was a memory that came up as a result of just doing some deep, deep breathing And it came up, and it was just, to this day, I still get chills. It was like a tiny baby that was being thrown out into the universe like a piece of garbage, and dodging all of these asteroids and all these huge boulders, and traveling, the speed of sound, going like a zillion miles an hour, just a baby in in an egg or whatever she was in. And I'm sure that was me. And then she got lifted up by these very delicate hands and placed very safely in the hands of this divine being. It seemed divine because she was just emanating light from every pore of her body. And then I got to look down below and then see all this chaos below me, but I was safe because I was in the arms of this divine being. And when I woke up, I was in a pool of sweat. It was as though I had just relived my birth. And I called my mother and I asked her, what is it about my birth that you have told me about? And finally, the truth came out that she had taken me, she and my father, to 3 abortion clinics to have me aborted. And they just didn't work. I guess she was too far along, or one was a failed abortion attempt. But the fetus, registers everything. So when that memory came up, it was like feeling like, I wasn't wanted. I was thrown out like a piece of garbage.
Right.
And so when that is at the deepest root of your being, I know how much I wanted to, because I'd never met my father, so I wanted to be an actress so that he could see where I was and he could come and claim me. Because I didn't know the background of all this that happened with my mother. But I'd never met my father, so I had idolized an imaginary picture of him. And that was the reason for, wanting to be out there so much so that he could come back and claim me.
And that's what, your story, when I read it, I was just like, wow, because you did do acting, correct?
Yes. Yeah, but not on the grandiose scale that I thought.
Right. But you were in a TV show, or you did
yes.
voiceover work, and then you did the stunt driving. And written a book, just so beautiful. But I went to, Hay House had a writer's workshop in Orlando last year, and I had gone as I'm finishing up my book. And it was just such a wonderful experience. And one of the speakers on stage, I think it was Mike Dooley, I think. Anyway, he said, in hindsight, when you look back over your life and you say, oh my gosh, everything was aligning. All those experiences that we have played a part in this journey and where we get to and who we are becoming as we finally, reach this place of enlightenment, or whatever you want to call it. And now I know, even the traumas, even the things that have happened.
Definitely.
There were lessons learned, and I've learned to look at the gifts within that darkness.
Well, I learned so much from Tony Robbins, even though we're not on the same page with everything, but he taught some wonderful, wonderful ideas. First of all, if you say you can't, you must. And if you must, you will. And that's what got me to call the car racing place and enroll in their Grand Prix road racing course. I never would have done that had I not say, I can't do that. No, I must do that. Because I said I can't.
Right.
And the other was transformational vocabulary. What are you saying to yourself? What do you say to yourself on a daily basis that your unconscious mind, which is running your body, is actually putting into perspective? He's making that happen. Because if you're saying you're worthless, if you're saying that you're not worthy of receiving love, or worthy of a relationship, or worthy of anything, you're actually drawing that unworthiness to you to prove to you that you're unworthy.
Right.
So you have to get the root cause. that baby being exposed like she was, I saw that there was something far greater than a human that loved me, that I was picked up by this just these divine hands and placed in safety. And I thought, wow, I've got that going for me.
Yeah.
It was like healing the very root of my existence, that I was worthy and that I was able to, to be loved.
Yes.
And it started my whole healing process to an amazing speed that I never had before. I didn't have to prove anything. I didn't have to work really hard. I already was acceptable and I already was worthy.
Yeah.
And you can't get there unless you find it, when you go inside and you start digging. That's something nobody can teach you. You
I
have to discover it yourself.
could not agree more. And I tell people that you have to go through the darkness to get into the light.
Yeah.
And that's where that Ho'oponopono, we talked a little bit before we started recording, and I've utilized that, and what a very healing and powerful healing technique it is as well.
It's amazing because it's, people are saying things to themselves all the time. So why not just do that mantra? I'm sorry. I love you. I forgive you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just say it to yourself. I'm sorry. You don't know why you're saying it, but it feels good. And then, all of a sudden the doo-doo is brushed aside.
Yes.
And then you've got a whole brand new slate,
Right.
to work with. So it's one of the most powerful tools. I cut cords. In my book, I have visual, pictures of you yourself on a platform, looking down on a stage, and then you can place people, your relatives, your mother, your father, your sisters, siblings, all your ancestors, and you place them all down below you, because it's like a movie that we're watching, and how we've determined what that has affected us. And if it has affected us in a negative way, we're draining our electromagnetic energy and draining our healing energy to heal our body. So that's why it's so important to be in alignment and to be in a neutral way, so that our body can heal when we need it for, certain diseases that happen along the way.
Right. Absolutely. So who is your target audience? Who do you want to reach?
Oh my gosh, it's just all kinds. I do a lot of podcasts. I do a lot of healing fairs. Um, just anybody and everybody I consider, they're sent to me for a certain reason. They'll find me on the website. They'll do a Hoonah workshop. I also do reconnective healing. I just feel the synchronicity. Whoever is sent to me, I'm supposed to be there to do something with them, or we need to heal together. So I really believe in the synchronicity of life, of everything.
Yeah.
Everything happens for a reason.
Absolutely. And I could not agree more. That's one of the things that Wayne Dyer had talked about when I watched one of his videos, and he was talking about how walking along the beach in Hawaii, and two women found him, and he just invited them back to his place, and his kids were always, what do you have, 8 kids, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh my gosh, Dad's bringing somebody, strangers from the beach home again. And
many times he'd be there by himself writing a book, because he came when I was doing a big seminar, a Tony Robbins seminar. We were climbing these telephone poles and then having to jump and catch a trapeze. He watched me climb mine, and he was giving me, come on, you can do it, you can do it. And I was like looking down at Wayne Dyer and thinking, yeah, I can't disappoint him. I've got to get, I can't fall. But he was really just a wonderful, wonderful inspiration. I really, really liked him so much.
yes, well, he certainly, I he's one of my idols as far as someone I want to emanate in life.
Yeah, well, he's up there in heaven looking down on us.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So talk about your book and what is it about?
Well, I didn't really want to write. It's really interesting. I didn't want to go in the water, and here I am, was taking people to swim with the dolphins. So never say you're never going to do something.
Yes.
And I was never going to write a book. I had 3 CDs because I do chanting, and so I had the Chant and Forgiveness, the Ho'oponopono on a CD and an MP3. So I thought, I'm leaving something. I'm okay. I don't need to write a book. And then my son passed away, and it was from an overdose of drugs because he had 2 failed back surgeries. He watched me heal myself, and he just couldn't go inside and do the work. A lot of people can't do that. It's not for everybody. And after he passed away, I also lost a whole bunch of money in a Ponzi scheme. Everything happens at the same time. Do you notice that?
Yes.
Like the rug gets pulled right away. And I could barely heal myself at that time. I kept cutting cords, but I was just in no position to help others. And a friend of mine took me to see a movie called The Living Matrix, and it featured Dr. Eric Pearl from the Reconnection and Dr. Bruce Lipton, whom I also just treasure our relationship too. He lives up here in Santa Cruz. And I watched Dr. Pearl heal this little boy from cerebral palsy. He was in a wheelchair and he couldn't move, and people had given up on him. And then he did 3 sessions where you don't touch him, but you just pull the frequencies and play with the frequencies that are around you. And this little boy walked out of his wheelchair and went out into the playground and was playing in the playground. And it was just amazing to watch this happen. And he was holding a cup for the first time. We take for granted holding a cup, but for some people that's huge.
Right.
And I was just overwhelmed at the thought that a person could help somebody in this capacity. And so I went home, I looked up where I could get a session. I had a session. The person didn't ask one thing about me. It's best to not know anything about the person. And after that half-hour session, I had no more of this heaviness. It was like this light had come across me and my joy had returned. And the weight of the grief had been lifted. And I was I was just amazed and happy, and had a couple other sessions, had my reconnection done, which is a one-time only, where these strands and strings are traced around your acupuncture points. And when that happened, all of a sudden, I heard, "You're going to write a book." And I went, "Oh, great. How wonderful. Sure, I'm going to write a book." I didn't argue with them. I just said, okay, let's do it. 3 years, there it was.
Wow.
Yeah. If it weren't for the reconnection, it wouldn't have happened.
Right.
And so the reconnection, what it does, it seems to accelerate people onto their soul path. Whatever that is, if you're here, it'll boost you up here to where you'll finally do what you came here to do.
Okay.
And for me, it was writing that book because it was a journey. It examines all the ancient Hawaiian healing that I used to heal my back. And it takes you through, again, your own process of healing yourself. It's just, I don't know, it's great. I don't say that because, I've seen it help so many people, and it continues to help them. And even though it's old-fashioned to say forgiveness, it still works. And
Yes.
it's the most healing thing you can do for yourself, by yourself, and it's not complicated.
No.
It's just our mind that makes it complicated.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to make it really easy. I taught third grade for 5 years. I use a lot of little puppets and, visual effects because I think people learn that way easier. So when I do give lectures, I bring my puppets with me. It's like you bring your dogs.
Right, right.
It just helps to, to make it easier and more accountable.
Right. Are you talking about the Huna healing? Is that what that is? Is that part of that?
It's mostly about the Huna healing. There's a chapter on the reconnection because I had just gotten into that. I've been doing reconnection now for 9 years.
So you do that for others?
Yes, it's separate though. The reconnection is, again, something you do to somebody, and Huna are techniques and things that you can do to heal yourself.
Okay.
And that's really the distinction. If you want to heal yourself, like I helped heal my back together with my higher self, there's a recipe in there on how to reach your higher self, which comes down into your physical body and changes it.
Wow. Okay. One of the questions that I had, that just popped out of my head was, any myths or facts that you'd like to clarify for listeners?
Any myths?
Yeah, any myths or facts that you want to clarify?
I never thought of that. Wow. Well, in the healing arts or in politics?
No, we could go on for a couple hours.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Yes, there's a lot of things in our world that don't make sense.
Right.
But in healing arts, everything makes sense. Everything is possible. So, I'm a believer in that if you can create it, you can make it.
Absolutely. One of the things I've been telling people recently, my mom is 82 and she was an alcoholic my entire life. And when I had some EFT work done, the emotional freedom therapy, or technique, emotional freedom, the friend of mine who's now a friend of mine, but when she came in, she had come to my home to do it. She's also a medium. And so she talked about, similar to what your experience, but not quite as in depth, about my history in the womb and not being wanted, and my mom's disease and the impact that it was having upon her. And so, we've struggled my whole life in my relationship with my mother. And just in these past, even 6 months, we've reached such a place of forgiveness and healing. And it's just been beautiful. She's given up drinking at 82 years old.
Bless her heart.
Yeah. And she's just, she's on her own healing journey because I'm communicating with her the things I'm learning as I go through mine, as I continue my mind. So it's just beautiful to watch her start to understand how she was hurt and her trauma experience and how it impacted her. So yeah, it's never too late, right?
How beautiful that you are together and that you could do this together.
Yeah.
It's never too late. Yeah.
Right.
That's wonderful. My mother passed away at almost 96. And I was an only child. But I never got to tell her. I found out through my ancestry that I was almost half Jewish.
Wow.
And I don't think she even knew that herself. And it was just kind of another shock.
Right.
Shock and awe. But, we go through life, and whatever meaning it has, it really depends on us. Nothing in life has any meaning except the meaning we give it.
Right. Absolutely.
It's one of my favorite sayings.
Yeah.
So that's why I like to cut cords a lot.
Yeah. So when you say that, cut cords, what do you mean by that? You're talking about cords to the past?
The cords are to the people and the events and persons to the past. So I imagine that we put them down below us, and there are cords that connect them to us based on what our perceptions are. If we have no emotional ties at all, there's no cords.
Okay.
But it can be to anything. You know, you could want a certain amount of money, and so that money is cording you and draining your electromagnetic energy. So it's, you know, your teachers, your mentors, all the people, your friends, clients, people you've had in the past, anything your unconscious mind is holding in its little black bag. It holds everything. And so every night, and sometimes during the day, I'll just put something down below me, take a deep breath, imagine the cords that are connecting me to them and draining me from my energy. And then I'll just say the words, I'm sorry, I love you, I forgive you, thank you.
Yeah.
And you're saying that between you and your higher self.
Okay.
And then I take a knife or a scissors or something to swirl around me. I sometimes shake my shoulders, and then that cuts the cords, and then I take my hand and then just watch them float away, or just feel them moving away. And then you just tuck the leftover cords back inside yourself, and you're starting over again. It neutralizes the playing field.
So it's a visual process, and then
Right.
But you utilize part of Ho'oponopono with it as well.
Well, it is Ho'oponopono, only it's the visual way of doing Ho'oponopono.
Okay. Okay.
I was on stage with Dr. Ihiliakala Len. Do you know who he is?
No.
He has spread Ho'oponopono around the world too, as much as he can. How do I explain it? He was assigned to a mental hospital for the criminally insane in Oahu.
Yes,
Okay.
That's who kind of, I don't want to say invented it, but
no, he passed it on from Morna Simeona, right? And he and I conversed about Ho'oponopono, and he, you know, I told him that I was doing the visual version, and you know, we just had our own kind of mix on how to teach it so that people would get it. And so anyway, I'm more visual, but you can also do it in a feeling way. You know, you feel the people down there and feel them leaving, or, you know, however, you know, your sensibility, you know, is this. You don't have to be just visual. You can do it every which way.
Okay.
But yes, he was an amazing, and I think he's still going strong, or he's in his 70s or 80s. He may be in his 80s.
Wow.
I'm in my 70s.
Okay. Now you had said, one of the things you said to me, I think in our email exchanges, was about the chanting. So
oh, I can do a chant for you. Again, this is the Hoonah.
Okay.
And it's I teach 4 levels of Hoonah. And again, it comes from the heart. So I don't have this great voice, but I chant based on the ancestors that have chanted before me. Okay. And it's almost as though it's like ammunition. Whenever if I feel afraid, or I need to have, you know, a sense of calmness and completion, I'll do chanting. And that puts you in just an amazing way. So I invite you, if you'd like, this is a chant that is a prayer. They're like prayers. And it asks for divine protection to come over you and to put you in a state of calmness and sereneness, and to move out all the darkness.
Okay.
Okay. Hai noho ana ke akuia I kanahi hele hele. Ia lehi ia he te tio huohu e taua koko. E he na kino malu I kalani malu e ho. He oho ulu mahi ana ho kanei kona kahu. Hoa hoa noa. Ike
Wow.
Ah,
Oh,
ah.
no kidding.
That's my go-to chant. And it just changes things. When I was in Hawaii, this was many years ago with a group, and we were getting threatened to go out and swim with the dolphins. Big guy comes up to me, and it's like he was going to pounce me. And all I did was look up to him, and I started singing that chant. And he just turned around and walked away.
Wow.
And everybody got to, it changes the frequency of the person that is hearing it.
Yes.
It just completely changes. I've taught this to police officers, and they've calmed down prisoners with it, squelched riots with it.
All right, everybody, we had a little technical difficulty. I got the chance we disappeared from one another, so we are back. So yeah.
Flying to realms unknown.
Yes, exactly. So I don't even remember what we were talking about because I got all flustered by the fact that I lost you.
Not lost, just kind of in another realm, huh?
There you go. A beautiful way to look at it. Yes.
That's right.
All right. So I think we had touched on the myths and facts part of it, and then so what resources and support have you used along your healing journey? Obviously, you've talked about some of it. Is there anything else that you've utilized?
Oh my gosh. I think the power of friends coming together in prayer is really phenomenal. And I'm experiencing that now. I have a little issue with my thyroid, and it's kind of acting up a little bit. And so I've asked some friends to just put me in their prayer groups. And I've seen wonderful things happen, when people pray together. And it's always better when a group comes together rather than the power of one. It's the power of the group. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely looking at prayer and just sending that across the airwaves.
Yeah.
It's just amazingly powerful.
Oh, energy is such, as we're learning more and more and more, as more of us are becoming connected to that idea, and just embracing the energy we put out into the universe, the
Right.
energy that we welcome into our lives, the energy, and prayer is a powerful part of that. I talk about that prayer being a part of my healing journey. I talk to God throughout the day and or whatever. If I see a little ladybug, I put a post on Facebook today, this morning, because I went for a nature hike this morning. I try to hike for about 30 minutes in nature every day, and
Oh, that's wonderful.
yeah, it's so soothing and grounding and centering. And so I was taking my hike. We live about 4 minutes from a nature preserve. And I was walking along, and I said, I felt like Snow White today, because and then I joked and said, now if I can only get all these little creatures to come home and clean my house, I'd be all set. So, but I had this little brown bird, and I tried to find a picture of it to see what it was. I'd never seen one before, but he landed right next to me on a post. And so I stopped, and I was like, hi, buddy. And he just sang and sang and sang and sang and sang this song. And I was too afraid that if I tried to pull my phone out and record it, that, he would fly off. Well, then a woodpecker was like a foot away from me. So I did record that and put that out there. And then it sounded like spring, even though it was 36 degrees this morning in Cincinnati.
Oh,
it sounded like, so I stopped in this field, and I was just like, it was just, and again, I consider that prayer,
Yeah, it is. It's a sanctuary. And you realize my very first job, I was hired as Snow White at Disneyland.
That's fantastic.
So that's been following me all my life.
Oh.
It just, I had to follow the little dwarfs around and, sing the song. I'm wishing for the one I love to find me today.
Wow,
I mean, we're talking 50 years ago, right?
that was so cool. But yeah,
It's fun. It's fun. A couple times for Halloween, I've put the costume on, not the one that, Disney had, but,
right.
something similar. But yeah,
How
that's funny.
funny.
You should bring her up.
I know. I was just going to say, there's that whole planets aligning universe, bringing synchronicity
That's right.
happening that I mentioned Snow White.
So you go in the forest and I go to the beach. I'm a
Yeah,
mile from the beach, so I take a walk on the sand and feel the waves and commune with the water that I was at once at odds with. Now we're good together.
yeah. We want to move to, our dream is to move to Hilton Head, South Carolina. Just
Oh, wow.
calls my name every time I'm there. The first time I pulled onto that island, I drove over the bridge with my ex-husband, and we pulled over the bridge, and we had our boys were little and they were in the back seat, and I said, this feels like home. And I couldn't explain it. There was no way for me to understand it or define it, but I'd never been to it. I didn't even know about the island. We received some postcard in the mail that said, come stay for, 3 nights, 4 days. We'll give you a free,
Wow.
condo, villa. And so we were like, oh, we'll take the kids down there and see what it's about. It felt like home. And every time I'm on that island, it feels like home. Can't explain it.
Well, your soul probably had a life there.
Yeah.
And now your body is going. I mean, I've had places, like Machu Picchu. I know I had some kind of lifetime there. And when you finally get there, you just start crying because it just feels like you're home.
Yes.
Totally, totally home.
Yeah.
So,
My therapist brought me a rock from, and I know I don't say it. Is it Machu Picchu? Is that
Machu Picchu, yes.
And it feels so. I loved that rock because it felt like air, like it was so light, like it almost contained, like it felt like it was like alien. I don't know how to explain it, but
There's a lot of alien activity going on there too.
yes, and that's why I think
Wow.
this rock, I was like, I don't think this is from this earth. It was weird, but very, very, I don't know. It was a soulful moment, and it was such a beautiful gift from my therapist too.
Well, you should go. You should go to Machu Picchu.
Yes, I should.
It's calling you.
It is.
It's calling you. Bring the rock back. Bring my rock back.
But you say, when you said the whole I can't, and that means you must.
That's right.
Because my fears have been my biggest hold me back.
And see, I remember when I got into, seeing Tony Robbins, and I started to hear about all the fears that I had, and I thought, I don't have much time. I have to burst through this bubble of fear because it's just an illusion, false evidence that appears real. And I had to, with me, it was though I had to break down that barrier, and I didn't have much time to do it because I had wasted all this 40 years of my life in creating fear.
Right.
So now I had to break it all away, and that was what I intended to do with the fire walking and everything else.
Oh, I admire you, because I still, through EMDR therapy, we've conquered, and we've processed so much of my trauma and I've conquered so many of my fears. There's still a few I hold on to, and we haven't been able to tap into why I still hold on to those. A fear of bridges and a fear of driving.
Oh my.
So, I may have to dig a little deeper on those.
Well, yeah, usually it involves some kind of a passing with one of those, one of those ideas, and you just passed on into this lifetime. And it's usually, there's like a little wire, what will it cost you if you don't resolve it? Can you put yourself out into the future and see what your life is like, having never driven or gone across a beautiful bridge?
Yeah, right. Yeah, where would I be if I hadn't? Right.
And where will you be if you can?
Yeah.
Remember, it's a bubble. It's like a bubble. And when you can burst through the bubble, it doesn't exist anymore. It's only an idea that was set in motion at a time when you didn't have the resources that you have right now. And just think of how much fun it might be to resolve that now,
Right.
to see yourself on the other side, waving at you.
Yes.
Hi,
Come on, Teri, let's go.
come on. We'll have so much fun over here today.
Right. All right,
So,
so I have 2 more questions for you.
okay.
This one is my favorite. And I think I'm going to write a book about my answers someday that I have from all my, you might be podcast guest number 51. So it's going to be great answers. If you could meet anyone, dead or alive, who could help you along your continued journey, who would it be?
Oh, the first person that comes into my mind is Robin Williams. Isn't that weird? I did a movie with Robin years ago, loved him dearly, know that he is just the greatest talent, comedic talent. And my son even had some dealings with him. And we lived in Tiburon. We'd watch him ride his bike. And when he left the planet, I was just devastated. And I just have a feeling somehow that my son and he have connected somehow and have learned lessons about, why they just couldn't, be here without having to hurry their lives along and go at their own hands. And so I just would like to know what they have learned together. That's the first thing that I thought about.
Wow, beautiful. And I just want to acknowledge, your pain, and I'm sorry about your son and your loss.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, it never gets easy.
yeah.
I mean, you just deal with it. But I know that I think he, accidentally took too much, I think, but I'll never know for sure. It's what a medium told me, that he was kind of surprised that he had crossed over,
Okay.
because he always thought he was invincible.
Right. Right.
But,
it wouldn't happen to him. Okay.
right. But with Robin, that was different. And he just couldn't face the illness that was that he was getting. And anyway, it was a huge loss. And I would just love to see him again and know what he has learned as a result of that.
Right. Well, what a beautiful answer. And I hope he's found his peace and his answers and what he's looking for.
Yeah. But I'm sure there's a lot of other people I'd love to see too.
Oh yeah, I think I have a list as well. Mine was Mother Teresa.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, there's a whole slew. I'd love to see my Grandma Kitty again, and yeah.
Sure.
Right.
Well, they come to us again. It's just a veil. It's just a veil from the other side. And I think when we listen, when we're really quiet, we ask questions and we get answers back. I do quite a bit of automatic writing. And so I just start writing and it feels like they're right in the room.
Yeah. I went on one of my nature hike, not yesterday, but the day before. And I told my dad passed in 2009. And I said, I just felt his presence. And I said, Dad, you should come take a hike with me. He used to like his exercise walks. Well, I actually did another Facebook post about this, and I posted on ACE's Connection about it. And I said, and there's pictures that I took, and I was walking along this, the leaves have fallen like crazy here in Cincinnati with the weather. And so there was just this long path of leaves, browns and yellows and oranges and reds, and crunchy. And it was, I said, I felt like an excited energy was with me, and that said, look down, look down.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped and I looked down, and in the midst of these hundreds upon hundreds of leaves was a little heart.
Oh.
And so I took the picture. I just found a picture. So I kept on my walk, and he kept pointing out hearts. He kept pointing out hearts all along on trees and, you know, everywhere I turned. And I kept saying, I see it, you know, and smiling. Well, we got to the end, and it had started out as a blue sky morning, started to gray up, but the sun hit this yellow tree. And it was, again, as if somebody very excited was, you know, an energy is how I described it. An energy saying, look up, look up. So instead of look down, it was look up. And I looked up, and sure enough, this yellow leaf was hanging on the tree, but it had a big brown heart right in the middle of it. So I was like, thanks, Dad. I got it. I'm seeing it. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's all there is over there is love.
Right.
So we just preoccupy ourselves with lots of stuff that just doesn't make sense.
I agree. I just released an ebook, and it's titled Stop Thinking, Just Love.
Oh, that's great.
Yes. and it's dedicated to my dad. So there you go.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's
so
beautiful.
My last question then is,
yes.
What is your dream job, and have you done it, or are you doing it now?
I've had several dream jobs. I really have no regrets. I've done theater, done some movies, didn't do well out in the public eye. I kind of wanted to hide. You know, I wasn't a real good celebrity.
Right.
So that doesn't have anything. And love the stunt driving. I just love doing what I'm doing now, which is helping people that, you know, that come to me. And I have a wonderful relationship, which is something I never had before. And he's the love of my life. And so we're traveling now and seeing places that I, you know, have not been to, like Damanhur. Have you ever heard of Damanhur? It's up in.
Where is it?
Oh my gosh, it's up in the northern region of Italy, and it underground. It's claimed to be the 8th wonder of the world. It's just beautiful art and rooms and things that are carved out of stone. And look it up, Damanhur, Damanhur.
Okay.
It's a spiritual university. You have to have, you know, reservation to go there. I've always wanted to. It's only been in existence about 40 years. And so anyway, we're going to go there next year and go to Croatia and just visit places that I haven't been. Beautiful.
Well, this has been just an amazing conversation. Thank you for your tolerance and patience with our little techo glitch, but
because I'm not a techie, that's the problem.
Well, apparently I'm not either, so
oh my gosh, it's a miracle that we connected.
That's right.
That's why I'm saying the angels just, you know, where there's a will, there's a way.
Absolutely. Well, it has been wonderful meeting you and talking to you, and thank you.
Oh, likewise.
Shining your beautiful light. It's been wonderful.
Ditto.
All right.
And mahalo.
Yes. Well, last thing is, how can people get a hold of you or get a hold of your book, or do you go to your website?
It's Huna Healing, Huna healing.com. And you can get the CDs on there, the MP3s, on iTunes, TuneCore. They're also downloadable. And all the way to do a seminar or to call me or email me is on my website. And Amazon, of course, has my book.
Okay.
And Barnes and Noble.
Right now. So.
And Barnes and Noble.
Okay. Well, again, thank you. I'm going to do a little closeout here. Everyone, thank you for joining us today. And until next time, remember to be gentle with yourselves. Thanks. Bye-bye.